I hear God singing to me. Every nation must be saved. I hear God singing to me. Every challenge must be brave. I feel God's Spirit in me, quenching not too much at stake. I hear God singing to me. I hear God sing for Jesus' sake. I hear God sing for Jesus' sake. I hear God singing to me. 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 I hear God singing and rejoicing, and I love my Father's song. I hear God singing and He's saying everyone should sing along. Righteous singing scares the devil, so let's shout our anthems loud. The soldiers choir in holy concert, voices lifted, faces bowed. I hear God singing to me. 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 Gather us and start a movement. Scatter us, we scatter seeds, planting Christ in every nation as our great crusade succeeds. Criticize us, we grow stronger. Kill us and for sure we win. For our battle isn't earthly, and our souls will never end. I hear God singing to me. 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 Sikia Mungu akiimba. For Jesus' sake. 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 I hear God singing to me. 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 Sikia Mungu akiimba. For Jesus' sake. Sikia Mungu akiimba. For Jesus' sake. Sikia Mungu akiimba. Sikia Mungu akiimba. I hear God singing to me. 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 I hear God me.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to see you. Welcome to our live stream service. And if you're visiting with us, make sure to check in the links below to be connected. We do a lot of great things within our congregation at GPCC. My name is Richard Buckner. I'm one of the evangelists here at GPCC, and we're going to continue with our series. Our series is Awaken New Life, and it's talking about for us the impact the cross and resurrection we're looking into the disciples' lives and how to move them. And it's going from the verse in Acts 5, verse 20, when the angel frees Peter from jail and he tells him, go and stand in the temple courts, he said, and tell the people about this new life. And so we're diving into that. We're looking at what were some of the ingredients in terms of the resurrection and how that had an impact on the apostles and then the early church. So we'll see. We've studied the Old Testament. We've looked at different parts of the scriptures, and now we're going to talk about the eyewitness accounts and how the power of the eyewitness accounts had inspired them and continues to inspire us today. That's why I'm here. Hence, right? But how it really moved with them and inspired them. And hopefully we get some lessons from that. And hopefully you get lessons from that. Whether you're a Christian, been a Christian for a little bit of time, a lot of time. I know I need being a Christian for over 20 plus years. I constantly need to find motivation and encouragement through the cross and the resurrection of Jesus. Not anything else. I mean, obviously the scriptures and there's my life and there's different things that God has blessed me with, but there's also a lot of things I've gone through that's been very difficult and hard. And I can't look to those things to be the anchor. It has to be Jesus, right? Hebrews talks about that, fixing our eyes on the author and perfecter of our faith. And no better way than to look at the cross and the resurrection, because that's what the angel is telling Peter. Go tell them about this new life that you have in Jesus. And so I'm excited about that. Today's sermon, like I said, is going to be focused on the eyewitness accounts. The key thoughts, I like to have some key thoughts just to keep you grounded in some guidelines of kind of where I go, because I talk a lot and I'm going in different directions, but there is a purpose to all of it. So the key thoughts are the thought of, again, some of them make sense, some of them don't. It is my job to connect those points in the sermon. But the first thought is, where were you when? And we're going to talk about the experiences that we all have had with these crazy global events, right? The most recent being the pandemic that we all have had in recent memory. So we're going to talk about that and how that really inspires and moves people. The next is you cannot unsee. And we're going to look at the impact that this major event had on the apostles' lives. They could not unsee it. And because of that, they've made these bold statements and bold claims and set up to these pretty, imposing people because they know what they saw and they can't unsee it. And then for us, this is the last part of it, right? Much of it's going to be talking about the eyewitness accounts. None of us were there at the cross and resurrection of Jesus. None of us. So how do we come into the story? And I want to talk a lot about our role in this and where our faith needs to be. And we're going to talk about what is our locus point, right? Where does that point that we can center on, that we should invest everything in and anchor everything in? Hence, spoiler alert, the cross, right? And the resurrection. So let's hop in. So this idea, this first thought of where were you when? I think for me to help my understanding is I think back on the different things that I have gone through in my own life, right? And there's been a lot of stuff in history, but this helps me understand the apostles' experiences when I can, think through and ground it in my own situation just to see what the thoughts and feelings that they were going through. Because at times it is hard. It's been so far away. Now I'm still convicted. Obviously, I'm a Christian, so I'm still convicted and moved by Jesus' sacrifice for me and my own sin to be saved. I'm moved by that. I was moved by that. That's why I became a Christian. But over the years, it's always a fight to make sure I stay motivated. I share this new life, that the life that I have is still new. It's not old, right? It's still a new life that I've been giving in Christ. And to help those thoughts, I thought of this phrase that's pretty common that most of us have heard, if not all of us, is where were you when this event happen, right? You talk about over, through a course of, not human history, but just within the past 100 years, right? The world wars from one and two, or the moon landing, or Vietnam, or you know presidential assassinations, right? Or even, like I said, the recent global pandemic, and even this past week and a half, there's been a series of pretty just crazy things that have happened in our own world, right? That will be in history books in the future. And so, you could see, man, a lot has happened maybe in your own lifetime. I know it has in my own lifetime. But when we look at these moments, these are key moments in history that impact you in a way where you're like, man, I can remember where I was when this happened. I can remember where, I was and who I was with and what I was feeling. That's the events that I'm talking about, right? And we all have different personal events that can impact us the same way, but these kind of global events that pull in everyone, that we all have these different experiences of this one single event. And it's undeniable, that these moments have left, in some ways can scar, in other ways inspire, but definitely have left us in a place that we see the world differently. And this is what the apostles went through. And this is how the apostles had experience. And when we read the cross of Christ, and to help ground it, I want to share just the experience that I personally had. There's been a handful of kind of where were you moments, but the one that comes to mind being September is 9/11. And this was even more hitting home because my son, about a week and a half ago, had come home and talked about, because 9/11 was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. But he came home saying, hey, I'm learning about 9/11. I want to know, where were you? And we had literally sat down, we talked about it. I remember, my wife was sitting down with him showing videos and pictures, and I talked with him briefly when I came home from an appointment. But he was really curious. He wasn't there. He didn't experience it, and he was really curious of what had happened. And I've had those same questions talking about World War II or Vietnam, or MLK, or the experiences that people have gone through. I'm curious of how people felt and where were they when this happened. But when I thought of my experience, I thought of 9/11. I was in college at the time, and I don't know if I was first or second year, but I was in college, and man, it was crazy. It was awoken by I was awoken by the news of it early because I was on the West Coast. I think the first plane hit like 8:40 or six or so, and so that's 5:46 West Coast time. But ironically, I was up, and not because I'm this ultra spiritual guy. I mean, I wake up and I pray, but I was up because in my household there was a group quiet time for our campus ministry, and so we had a bunch of people coming over from a small group and Bible talk to meet at my house in my household to have quiet time living room. When I walked out to join them, the news was on, and I think they were meeting there at 5, right before school, and so the news was on, and so they were watching what has happened on the news and just sitting there for the whole quiet time. And I joined them briefly before I had to get ready to head off to class. But in my way to class, you hear not only did the other plane hit, but also the South Tower starting to fall right when I'm on my way to school, and sitting in class. It was pretty a surreal moment, and the teacher um, just I mean, couldn't teach. He was like, "Hey, I've got to dismiss the class. This is overwhelming. Um, you have the day, the class off." And really, all the classes ended up getting canceled later that day. But I remember very vividly being in the student center where the TVs were and watching, footage and the news and replays of the planes hitting, and then there obviously was other news of one plane crashing somewhere in PA, and then the Pentagon much later, and just like, whoa, like this is surreal. And one of the students walked up to me, I didn't even know, and he was just like looking up, and he was like, man, this feels like we're in a movie, and I'm waiting for the director to call cut. And that stuck with me because it did. It felt like we're watching, uh, a movie, or we're in it, like we're experiencing this disaster movie of all these. I'm a big movie person, I've seen all of them, right? I've seen all the disaster movies, but we were actually living it. And, you know, almost 3,000 people have lost their lives that day. Another estimated 6,000 people were injured. I mean, it was the whole nation, right, was traumatized from it. You know, the biggest and major event that has rocked the U.S. And I think about that, and I'm like, that memory is burned, and the experience is burned in my mind. I can recall, again, like I said, where I was, the time of day. Again, even that discussion with that, I didn't even know who that person was, but that discussion there with the look on my teacher's face, it was real, right? This was happening all in real time. And I wasn't even there. I wasn't even in New York. I'm in California. And yet how much that impacted me. I mean, imagine, I can't. I mean, people have, but I can imagine actually being there, going to work, right? Or having a family member or someone you love that have lost their lives. Like, that's even more real and an experience that you cannot deny. It's undeniable and it's fact, right? And think of the apostles. It gives just a little window in a, for them, a global event, right, of all of Israel, and this guy named Jesus, and causing a ruckus, and from some small podunk town that's now leading into the capital city of Jerusalem, right, of God's people. And he's on trial. It's the most salacious thing. It's like the OJ, right, trial. I mean, it's salacious, and he's scandals and all these things following him, and people are glued to what's going to happen, and he dies, right? And they see that, they experience that, and it changes their lives. But that's the cross part of it. Jesus would eventually follow up the most devastating moment to the most exhilarating moment in the resurrection, right? Just, we'll see days later, literally three, that he is resurrected. So I thought, okay, well, what experience was the most exhilarating for me to help understand and key in on the moment of the resurrection? And again, all these pale in comparison. I'm not saying this compares to that, but the event of a group of people experiencing one thing at the same time, that we see the apostles, there's about 120 in the upper room, seeing, the encounter of the Holy Spirit, and Peter standing up and preaching to the crowd, and then going out to meet the wider and larger audience of the groups of people, and then 3,000 become Christians that day. Recorded men, most likely double that for the women or the wives, or close to that. But I thought of, Super Bowl 42. It was a David Tyree catch, the undefeated Patriots, versus the lowly Giants that backed their way into the playoffs. And again, that was an event that I can remember being in campus. I think it was '08. And it's everybody hated the Patriots at that time, and this even more so. It was nothing more that would feel better to me than watch an undefeated Patriots team go down at the Super Bowl, right? Do all this work only to get to that point and lose. And so everybody was going against the Patriots, but it didn't. It looked like, okay, it's the same old, same old. Tom Brady does his thing. They go up 14-10, and it's only about a minute and 15 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Ball game, right? But then you get this crazy play for the Giants, that ball's thrown, and the player, David Tyree, catches this ball, and it's just like one of the most improbable miracle type catch. Literally, he's catching it with his helmet, and you see on screen. And this guy was an unsung player. It wasn't like he was some hot shot receiver. Obviously, he made it to NFL, so he can play. But he makes this catch, improbable. And man, and then 4 plays later, the Giants, who are 12-point underdogs, who enter a Super Bowl with 12-point underdogs, ends up winning against the undefeated, the most unstoppable team since 1972 Dolphins, right? That wow, they are defeated, right? It's a David and Goliath situation. And that was more exhilarating. I mean, people jumping up, hugging, like it was crazy. Like I know it's fickle because it's sports, but it was one of those moments like I've never experienced it. I've literally never experienced it. Now I know I'm talking to a good number of Eagles fans out there, and you would say it's Super Bowl 52, right? Just 10 years later, you guys winning your first Super Bowl. But I wasn't here, and I'm not an Eagles fan. But I mean, the feeling that I felt in that moment was like, this is crazy. Like this is going to go down in history. Like this is crazy, and I'm experiencing it right now, like in real time, and you know it. You're sitting there like, wow. Again, that's just it pales a comparison of exactly what the apostles were feeling. Like very minuscule, but it helps me see that when there's a undeniable, incredible, where were you when type moment, you can't undo that. Like there's not a part of you where it doesn't matter how I feel or what I'm going through my day. It doesn't take away that experience, both the 9/11 or the David Tyree catch, right? Like it doesn't do away with it, whether I'm having a good day or a bad day. It's a fact. It happened. And if someone were trying to tell me, hey, no, that didn't happen, didn't exist, right? Or someone who come later who was never born, like if my son came to me, hey, 9/11 didn't exist, I would look at him like he's crazy. Like I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. I experienced it. The whole world did, right? And many of us, well, not many of us, most all of us, except for your young child, you don't remember, but we all go through a pandemic. Like someone denying that, we would think would be absolutely crazy. It happened all over the world, right? This is something that would be effortlessly to defend. I don't even have to think about it. And there's so much evidence, right? To point to, so much eyewitness accounts that were there that day. I would be extremely confident in my position that those events have happened. Again, this is just a snippet of what we could grasp exactly what the apostles felt about the cross and the resurrection. It was undeniable of what they'd gone through. They experienced, they saw with their own eyes. And we're going to read scriptures to talk about this. You can't take that away from them. There was no doubt in their minds, to the point even dying for what they saw. And we're reading the very words of eyewitnesses experiencing who Jesus was, how he lived, how he died, and how he was resurrected. And that inspired them to, going back to our theme of the series, sharing this new life. And I hope as we read a handful of these passages that I wanted to start off with that illustration, because here's an exercise I want for you. I want you to grab an event for you, right? It may not have been 9/11. It may not have been the David Tyree catch. Maybe it was. I don't know. But I want you to grab an event that it changed your life, a moment globally. It affected not just you, but a lot of people around you that you all had shared in. Powerful moment. Because I want you to use that as you go back to when we read these scriptures, the things that you felt that was just so overwhelming, and it was the pandemic. Like you're like, yeah, that happened, and that was crazy. That gives you a window to when we read these scriptures. I want you to use those experiences to relate to the apostles. And I hope it inspires and convicts you of how we should carry the gospel today. Because if we were in that moment, we saw Jesus die, like literally die, resurrected, and saw his resurrected body, and then experience him again in this crazy spirit coming down, Pentecostal really, a moment, it would change us forever, right? And I think the question for us is, how do we view the cross and resurrection? Do we believe the accounts of the apostles and the eyewitnesses? Because if we do, it will in turn change our lives, right? Because they saw it, and it happened. It was a fact. Let's go to our next stop. They couldn't unsee the cross and the resurrection. Let's go to Acts 22, and we're going to get through here. I'm going to read 22 to 36. And this is kind of going to be context. We'll look at some other scriptures, pull some other scriptures in, and then end with the final thought. And verse 22 says, the people of Israel, listen, God publicly endorsed Jesus of Nazarene by doing powerful miracles, wonders, and signs through him, as you well know. But God knew what would happen. He prearranged a plan carried out when Jesus was betrayed. With the help of lawless Gentiles, you nailed him to the cross and killed him. But God released him from the horrors of death and raised him back to life. For death cannot keep him in its grip. King David said about him, I see the Lord is always with me. I will not be shaken, for he is right beside me. No wonder my heart is glad and my tongue shouts for praise. My body will rest in hope. For you will not leave my soul among the dead or allow the Holy One to rot in the grave. You have shown me the way of life, and you will fill me with the joy of your presence. Dear brothers, think about this. You can be sure that the patriarch David wasn't referring to himself, for he died and was buried, and his tomb is still here among us. But he was a prophet, and he knew that God had promised with an oath that one of David's own descendants will sit on his throne. David was looking into the future and speaking of the Messiah's resurrection. He was saying that God would not leave him among the dead or allow his body to rot in the grave. God raised Jesus from the dead, and we are all witnesses of this. Verse 33. Now he's exalted to the place of the highest honor in heaven at God's right hand, and the Father, as he had promised. He gave him the Holy Spirit and poured out upon us, just as you see and hear today. For David himself never ascended into heaven, yet he said, the Lord said to my Lord, sit in my place and honor of my right hand, until I humble your enemies, making them a footstool under your feet. So let everyone in Israel know for certain that God has made this Jesus, whom you crucified, both Lord and Messiah. This has so much more weight when you put it in the context of everything we've discussed so far, right? A couple of my experiences, particularly with 9/11, and just whoa, and out of body experience you can have in these moments. I can't imagine. I mean, a little bit about what they went through and what they experienced, and when they saw Jesus, it was crazy. And so I look at this and I'm like, man, like it was for certain. They were witnesses to the fact. And it led them to go out and preach and to lay out their lives and to throw out these like insane claims that we'll begin to read. And I want for us to say, man, do we have that same fire, right? Are we bringing that same energy to when we see the cross, when we see Jesus, and we see his sacrifice? 1 John 1:1, you should be able to see it on screen. This is John, the apostle, later in life. The letters that he written, the epistles later in John, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, are later in life, right? He is reflecting back on the event, right? It's like reflecting back on 9/11, some 20, 30, 40 years since it's passed. You learn a lot. There's a lot of things you can look back on. And 1:1, he says, we proclaim to you the one who existed from the beginning, whom we've heard and seen. We saw him with our own eyes and touched him with our own hands. He is the word of life. Getting to the second thought is this idea that they couldn't unsee these things. They couldn't unsee these experiences, right? Read in Acts where he's like, we are witnesses to this. And now reading John, it's like, we saw this with our own eyes. We can't unsee this, right? When you think about those moments, I think personally, I can't unsee 9/11. I can't unsee the different experiences even throughout, and even the pandemic. I can't unsee that. It's in there. And for them, Jesus' cross and resurrection, it is in there. So much so, there's this even personal element to it, right? They can't unsee their experience with it, right? In terms of touching him. He's like, man, we touched him with our own hands. This dude was real. I think for us, like, what experiences have you seen God do in your life that you've touched, taste, like with your own hands, your own senses? I mean, there's a lot for me in seeing what God has done. Not only just changing my life and becoming a Christian, but the series of overcoming character flaws, right? That things that have plagued me, the victory that I've had, and whether it's my own, sexual purity. I mean, just the overcoming my fear and leading and becoming a leader, and now being in the ministry and leading many people. The forgiveness of my family and my pops, and there's so many different things that I've seen God do that are facts, can't be taken away, of the life that has changed within me, right? And it it should motivate me the way, it should motivate you as you're sharing your faith. Another scripture in Acts 5 29 I really love, and it reads, but Peter and other apostles replied, we must obey God rather than human authority, right? Within the same point, they couldn't unsee the lordship. No matter what had happened, no matter what opposition, no matter what, you know, threats, and they would die. I mean, all of them would die. John would be the only one that lived and that we know of died of old age. They tried to kill him. None of that. They couldn't unsee the lordship. Like, when a dude is killed and raised from the dead, you're like, okay, yeah, you must be the God, right? You are the God. We were following it, we trusted it, now we really see it. So any authority on this earth has no bearing. I mean, they were they were in a league of their own, right? They were operating on a different game plan. And so kings would threaten them, or they get beaten, or they get imprisoned. Didn't matter. You can't unsee the lordship. Yahweh is Lord, and he spoke, and he given us Jesus, right? Who died for our sins. Can't unsee that lordship. So you can threaten me, you can hurt me, but we must obey God rather than you, right? Wow. And that again convicts me. How convinced am I of God's lordship in my life? Or am I constantly, grabbing back power or authority or control of my life? I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. The God who raised a man from the dead and raised him to a new life, right? When I go back on that, I lose that faith. I lose that conviction that Jesus is Lord. Wow, right? Another verse in Acts 4 or 13 says the members of the council were amazed when they saw the boldness of Peter and John, for they could see that they were ordinary men who had no special training in scriptures. They also recognized them as men who had been with Jesus, right? Because of that, people couldn't unsee the impact. They couldn't unsee it. These are people who are just madly in love and controlled by what they saw and inspired by what they saw in the cross and the resurrection. And it led them to what we read the next chapter over in Acts 5, this new life. They were bold. They stood up. They had no formal training, meaning they weren't rabbis, right? They weren't trained formally in the synagogue. And here you see these ordinary men off the street, literally off the street, because Jesus meets them when they're fishing, right? Off the street, who are these powerful leaders of God's word, being moved because of the event they experience. And again, for us, how much does the cross and resurrection influence our actions today? Would this be said of me or you, that people are amazed and they take note, they recognize? I mean, these are just regular people on face value, but they have been with something different. And they see that you're a Christian. That's what stands out. That's what leads before you. And as we end here, what does that mean for us, right? I think that the effort has got to be, we've got to be moved and trust these accounts. These eyewitnesses accounts are true. They're facts. Um, People can argue all these different things of Jesus existed or whatever, or, were these accounts real? What you cannot deny, they saw something. They saw an experience. They wrote about it and they died for it. I mean, it was crazy. And that story spread across the globe, okay? Of these men and women throughout the generations have given their lives because of Jesus, because they were moved. But even within that lifetime of him had died and were so moved to give up their lives because they saw the impact of Jesus. And I think for us, where should we be invested? And I love this passage in Matthew 6 that just helps me. I've got to be grounded in this, in the cross and resurrection. But how visually, what are the practicals for that? And in Matthew 6, I love Matthew 6 and 19 through 21. It says, "Don't store up treasures here on earth where moth eat them and rust destroys them, where thieves break in and steal. Store up yourselves. Store up treasures in heaven, where moth and rust cannot destroy, and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there your desires of your heart will also be." And I think for us, especially all the events that have gone on this week, and you got, Charlie Kirk's death, and you got, Jimmy Kimmel coming off the air, you got the right and the left going at each other, you got people saying, where are we in our world? And I'm only speaking for as an American, right? And you may be viewing this and you're not in America, but I think you think of the different things where it's what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, or what's happening in Gaza, and really much of the Middle East, and with Israel, and all these different things that are happening right now. We have to be careful of where we are invested, right? Jesus warns us when we invest on earth and get caught up on these earthly things, it doesn't mean that we are detached unemotionally. Jesus very much felt what people felt. I mean, he's crying for the leper, some leper that the society had forgotten. He's engaged, but he wasn't attached in a way, not to the leper, but to what the world around him, what was happening. Because why? He was operating in a different plane, like the apostles were that we read. He's like, no, my thoughts and my heart is in heaven. I think when it comes to the cross and resurrection, that's the true treasure, right? That's where we invest. We invest in God's kingdom. We invest and we're motivated in our new lives in that. When we get caught up on these things here on earth, when we get caught up on looking at all this stuff here on earth, right? What catches our eye here on earth, that's where it gets stolen. That's where it rusts. That's where we're let down, right? Put our hope in people or situations or relationships, or what's happening in society, or who's leading our country. That stuff rusts. That stuff gets us in a place where that stuff does not appreciate over time. It depreciates. Where should our locus point be? It should be investing in heaven. And what we learned about the cross and the resurrection points us to that very thought. That's where the treasure should be stored. Is the resurrection and the cross motivating me from day to day? Or is it these other things? And it could be spiritual, right? Matthew 7 talks about, the followers are like, Lord, Lord, didn't we do all these things? So they were doing good things, but it still was not the storing and the treasures in heaven. And it left them still empty and lost. Because God is like, I don't know you, right? I don't know who you are. And we've got to be careful, whether you're Christian or not, of where we're investing our time, our effort, our money, our emotions. Because if it's on the things of this world, Jesus gives us the warning. It will rust over time. And you have the moths that slowly eat it away, or you just have the thieves that come in suddenly and take them. It has to be in heaven. It has to be in God's kingdom and spiritual things. And the cross and resurrection is that path, that eyewitness accounts that they saw is that path to get us there. How do you view the cross and resurrection? Do you believe the eyewitness accounts? Does that move and motivate you to be stronger in your faith, to go out and share with people with confidence? This happened. I can't unsee this. They couldn't unsee this. And do you teach and share with fervor in that way? That I'm convicted by that, right? Because if someone, like I said, came up to me and said 9/11 didn't happen, I would think they were crazy, right? And would boldly, like it's just an effortless, versus being challenged in my faith from day to day to share my faith or to speak up or I have no problem defending, and I read the scriptures enough, but man, like I'm on the offense and not on the defense with this, because this is real. I'm convicted by that, right? You know, me walking into a place or going about my day, am I looking to share with people about the cross and resurrection? Because it happened. This is real. I mean, they lived it. They died for it. What am I doing with my time and my life? I hope this helps you as it did for me, and really convicting and getting me in the place of just being really humble for it. And I hope it really helps you in that way. I hope you have a great time today and enjoy your Sunday. And I hope this carries your thoughts into next week of thinking about the cross and the resurrection. Thank you. Thanks again for joining our live stream service. We have discussion questions located in the description for deeper reflection on today's sermon. If you're visiting with us and you want to get connected, you can visit our website at gpcc.org, click on the Contacts tab, and send us your information. And we will reach out and connect with you as soon as possible. We will end with one last song to end our live stream service. We are encouraged you joined us this morning, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say, rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say, rejoice. Oh yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Come bless the Lord. Come bless the Lord. Come bless the Lord. Draw near to worship Christ the Lord and bless his name, his holy to the